The empty black space between the stars held many secrets. Admiral Thexvar of the Zephyrian hegemony knew this well. He had spent 30 years exploring the dark corners of the galaxy, finding lost civilizations and forgotten worlds. But today, his sensors had found something different. "Admiral, we have something strange on the long-range scanners," called out Lieutenant Kexra from the sensor station. Her 4 eyes focused on the glowing displays before her. "It's big, sir. Really big." Thexvar moved his tall, thin frame across the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator. Behind him floated nearly 200 ships of the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet. Each ship carried the best weapons and shields that hegemony science could create. They were the most powerful military force in this part of the galaxy. "Show me," Thexvar ordered. The main screen flickered to life. In the distance, against the backdrop of distant stars, hung a massive shape. Even from far away, they could see it was enormous. The ship looked ancient and damaged. Its hull was black and scarred, marked by what looked like thousands of years of floating through space. "By the void," whispered Commander Velkar, Thexvar's second-in-command. "That thing is 3 times bigger than our largest ship." Dr. Veltana, the fleet's expert on ancient civilizations, moved closer to the screen. Her scaled face showed excitement. She had spent her life studying the old races that once ruled the galaxy. "Admiral, I need to run some scans on that vessel. The shape and design look familiar." "Do it," Thexvar said. "But keep our distance. Something that size could be dangerous, even if it looks dead." The science ships moved forward carefully. Their advanced sensors reached out to touch the mysterious vessel. The readings that came back surprised everyone. "Admiral," reported the chief science officer, "the ship appears to be completely powered down. No energy signatures except for basic life support. The hull is made of simple metal alloys. The technology looks primitive." "Primitive how?" Thexvar asked. "The power source appears to be basic fusion reactors. The weapons look like they fire solid projectiles. No energy, shields that we can detect. No quantum drives. Sir, this technology is thousands of years behind our current level." Dr. Veltana studied her readings carefully. Her excitement grew as the data came in. "Admiral, I'm reading text on the hull. It says UES Retribution, and below that, something called the Terran Imperial Navy." The bridge fell silent. Everyone had heard stories of the Terrans, but most people thought they were just myths. Tales spoke of an ancient human empire that once controlled vast parts of the galaxy before disappearing completely. "Terrans?" Commander Velkar laughed. "But humans are a young race. They only left their home system a few hundred years ago. They control maybe 20 systems near their homeworld." "That's what I thought too," Dr. Veltana said. "But look at this ship. The design, the materials, even the way the hull is shaped. This matches descriptions from the oldest records I've studied. Admiral, this could be proof that the Terran Empire actually existed." Thexvar studied the ancient ship. It hung in space, like a sleeping giant. Whatever civilization had built it was clearly gone. The ship looked like it had been drifting alone for a very long time. "How long has it been out here?" he asked. "Based on the cosmic radiation damage and the way the metals have aged, I'd say at least 10,000 years, maybe more." The science officer replied. 10,000 years, Thexvar repeated. "And it's still holding together?" "The construction is actually quite impressive," Dr. Veltana admitted. "Simple, but very strong. Whoever built this knew how to make things that would last." The Admiral made his decision. "We'll investigate. If this really is from the ancient Terran Empire, it could contain valuable information or technology. Even old technology might be useful." As the fleet moved closer, more details became visible. The ship was not just big, it was massive beyond belief. It stretched for kilometers with weapon ports along its sides that could hold cannons larger than most modern ships. But everything looked cold and dead. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "I'm picking up a faint signal from the ship. It's very weak, but it's there." "What kind of signal?" "It looks like an automated distress beacon. Very old design, but still working." Dr. Veltana nodded. "That makes sense. Ancient ships often had backup systems that could work for thousands of years." The hegemony fleet formed a careful circle around the ancient human ship. Every weapon was charged and ready, just in case. But the old ship remained dark and silent. "Send out a general scan," Thexvar ordered. "I want to know everything about this vessel. Its weapons, its armor, its crew capacity. Everything." The scans revealed more surprises. The ship had armor that was incredibly thick, but made of basic steel and ceramic. The weapons were huge but appeared to be simple projectile cannons. There were no signs of the advanced energy weapons that modern ships carried. "Admiral," the tactical officer reported, "this ship would have been powerful in its time, but against our current weapons and shields it would be helpless. Our energy shields would stop those projectile weapons easily." "How many crew would it need?" Thexvar asked. "Based on the size and the systems we can detect, probably around 50,000 beings. But sir, there's no way anyone could still be alive on that ship after so long." Dr. Veltana continued studying the readings. "Admiral, there are some strange things about this ship that don't make sense." "What kind of strange things?" "Well, for one thing, the power systems are much more complex than they first appeared. Yes, it uses fusion reactors, but the design is unlike anything I've seen, and some parts of the ship aren't showing up on our scans at all." "Scanner problems? I don't think so. It's more like parts of the ship are made from materials our sensors can't identify. That's unusual for such an old vessel." Commander Velkar studied the tactical display. "Sir, even if this ship was fully operational, it wouldn't be a threat to us. Look at our fleet. We have quantum disruptors, matter annihilators, and dimensional shields. This old thing has metal armor and projectile weapons." Thexvar nodded. The commander was right. Whatever the ancient Terrans had been, they were clearly far behind modern technology. Still, the ship was interesting from a historical perspective. "Dr. Veltana, prepare a research team. We'll board that ship and see what we can learn about the ancient Terran Empire." "Yes, sir." "Admiral, this could be the greatest archaeological discovery in centuries. Think of what we might learn about how humans lived 10,000 years ago." As the fleet prepared for the boarding operation, nobody noticed the small changes happening on the ancient ship. Deep inside its hull, systems that had slept for millennia began to stir. Computers older than most civilizations quietly came online. And in a chamber at the heart of the great ship, something that had been waiting for a very long time finally opened its eyes. The UES Retribution was no longer alone in the void. And after 10,000 years of patient waiting, it was time to see what the galaxy had become. The first sign of change came from the communications station. Lieutenant Kexra looked up from her console with confusion on her face. "Admiral, I'm getting an active signal from the derelict ship," she reported. "It's not the automated beacon anymore. This is a direct communication attempt." Admiral Thexvar stopped what he was doing. "Active signal? From a ship that's been dead for 10,000 years?" "Yes, sir. And sir, it's using current galactic standard language protocols." Before Thexvar could respond, the bridge speakers crackled to life. A clear, strong voice filled the command center. It spoke with an accent that sounded old, but the words were perfectly understandable. "Unknown vessels, you are currently trespassing in Terran space. Please identify yourselves and state your business in this system." The entire bridge fell silent. Everyone stared at the speakers. After a moment, nervous laughter began to spread among the crew members. "Did that ship just claim this is Terran space?" Commander Velkar asked with amusement. Dr. Veltana was studying her instruments with growing excitement. "Admiral, the ship's power readings just increased dramatically. Multiple systems are coming online." Through the main screen, they could see lights beginning to appear along the hull of the ancient ship. Sections that had been dark for thousands of years were now glowing with soft blue light. Thexvar activated the fleet communication system. "Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Thexvar of the Zephyrian Hegemony 3rd Expeditionary Fleet. This system has been claimed by the Hegemony for over 300 years. You are the one who is trespassing here." The response came quickly. "Admiral Thexvar, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Retribution, Terran Imperial Navy. I'm afraid your information is incorrect. This system has been under Terran protection for the past 12,000 years." Laughter erupted across the bridge. Even Admiral Thexvar couldn't help but smile. The idea was completely ridiculous. "Captain Chen," Thexvar replied, trying to keep his voice serious. "Humans are a young species that only achieved space travel a few hundred years ago. Your empire, if it ever existed, disappeared long ago. This is clearly some kind of mistake or malfunction." "Admiral, I can understand your confusion," came the patient reply. "The Terran Imperial Navy has been on deep patrol operations for an extended period. We've been monitoring galactic affairs from the outer void. While we've been away, it seems some younger species have developed impressive technology." Commander Velkar couldn't contain his laughter anymore. "Deep patrol for 12,000 years? Admiral, this has to be some kind of joke or a malfunctioning computer system." Dr. Veltana looked troubled as she studied her readings. "Admiral, The ship's power signature is now reading at levels that should be impossible for those old fusion reactors, and I'm detecting systems coming online that weren't there before. Thexvar ignored her concerns. This was clearly either an elaborate hoax or the ravings of an ancient AI that had been alone too long. Captain Chen, I appreciate your interesting story, but I have 200 modern warships under my command. Each one carries weapons that could destroy your entire vessel in seconds. I suggest you power down and prepare to be boarded for inspection. There was a long pause before Captain Chen responded. When she did, her voice had lost some of its friendly tone. Admiral, I strongly advise against that course of action. The UES Retribution is operating under final protocol authorization. Any hostile action will be considered an act of war against the Terran Empire. This brought fresh waves of laughter from the bridge crew. Thexvar decided to broadcast this conversation to his entire fleet. His captains deserved some entertainment. Attention all ships, he announced on the fleet channel. You're about to hear something amusing. We have an ancient human ship claiming to be from a 12,000-year-old empire, threatening our entire fleet. Within minutes, the communication channels were filled with laughter and jokes from across the fleet. Captains were making bets about whether the ancient ship would fall apart if they looked at it too hard. The weapons officers were joking about using their smallest guns so they wouldn't vaporize the historical artifact completely. Captain Chen, Thexvar said, now openly amused. I'm sure you were impressive 12,000 years ago, but you're dealing with modern technology now. We have quantum shields that can stop anything you might throw at us. We have weapons that can tear apart the space you're sitting in. Your ship is made of metal and fires solid bullets. Do you really think you can threaten us? Admiral, Captain Chen's voice was now completely serious. You don't understand what you're dealing with. The Terran Imperial Navy didn't disappear. We evolved. We chose to step back and let the younger races develop. But we never stopped watching. Evolved into what? Thexvar asked, wiping tears of laughter from his eyes. Better storytellers? Dr. Veltana suddenly grabbed the Admiral's arm. Sir, you need to look at these readings. The ship's energy output is increasing beyond anything our sensors can properly measure. And there are sections of the hull that are changing. Changing how? Parts of the ship that looked like battle damage are opening up. They're revealing structures that weren't visible before. On the main screen, they could see the ancient ship transforming before their eyes. What had looked like scars and damage across the hull were actually concealed weapon ports and sensor arrays. The ship was much larger than they had originally thought. Fascinating, breathed Dr. Veltana. It's not just a warship, it's some kind of mobile fortress. Commander Velkar was less impressed. So what if it's bigger than we thought? Size doesn't matter when you're using 1,000-year-old technology. Captain Chen's voice came through the speakers one more time. Admiral Thexvar, this is your final warning. Withdraw your fleet immediately or face the consequences. The Terran Imperial Navy has protocols for dealing with hostile forces that threaten protected space. Protected space? Thexvar was enjoying this more than any entertainment he'd seen in years. Captain, this entire sector belongs to the hegemony. We have colonies on 6 worlds in this system alone. Our mining operations have been working here for centuries. Those operations are illegal under Terran law, Chen replied calmly, but we've allowed them to continue as long as they didn't interfere with our operations. That tolerance has now ended. The Admiral decided to end this ridiculous conversation. Captain Chen, I'm going to give you one chance to surrender peacefully. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. Your ship will be turned over to our archaeologists for study. You, assuming you actually exist and aren't just a computer program, will be relocated to a proper human colony where you can receive medical attention. And if I refuse? Then my fleet will destroy your ship. I'm sorry if that damages a historical artifact, but I can't allow you to continue making threats against hegemony forces. There was another long pause. When Captain Chen spoke again, her voice was cold as space itself. Admiral, you have made your choice. All hands, general quarters, battle stations, execute final protocol. Across the bridge of the Dominator, the laughter stopped, not because anyone was suddenly afraid of the ancient human ship, but because they were all eager to see their modern weapons tear the old vessel apart. All ships, Admiral Thexvar announced, assume attack formation. Let's show this relic what real military power looks like. 200 advanced warships moved into position around the lone ancient vessel. Each ship powered up weapons that could crack planets and shields that could stop the most powerful attacks known to galactic science. The UES Retribution hung motionless in space, waiting. Dr. Veltana stared at her instruments with growing worry. The readings from the ancient human ship were getting stranger by the minute. "Admiral," she called out, "I think we should reconsider this attack. Something isn't right about that ship." Admiral Thexvar was busy watching his fleet move into perfect attack formation. 200 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy formed a deadly sphere around the lone human vessel. "Doctor, your concerns are noted, but we have overwhelming superiority here. That old ship can't possibly threaten us." "Sir, the energy readings I'm getting don't match what we should see from fusion reactors, and those hull sections that are opening up, they're revealing technology I can't identify." Commander Velkar laughed from his position at the tactical display. "Dr. Veltana, with respect, you're an archaeologist, not a military analyst. That ship is 12,000 years old. Even if it was the most advanced vessel of its time, our worst ship could destroy it without effort." But Dr. Veltana had spent her life studying ancient civilizations. She knew that sometimes the old records contained warnings that people had forgotten. "Admiral, what if the stories about the Terran Empire are true? What if they really were as advanced as the legends say?" "The legends are just stories," Thexvar replied firmly. "Look at modern humans. They're a peaceful species that mostly keeps to themselves. They have decent technology, but nothing special. The idea that they once controlled a vast empire is just fantasy." On the main screen, the UES Retribution continued to transform. More sections of the hull were opening, revealing structures that definitely hadn't been there before. The ship was easily 4 times larger than their original estimates. "Admiral," the tactical officer reported, "the target ship is now showing a length of 12 kilometers and a width of 3 kilometers. Mass estimates are off the scale." 12 kilometers? Commander Velkar whistled. "That's bigger than a space station. How did we miss that much of the ship?" Dr. Veltana was reading through the oldest files in her database. "Admiral, I found something. It's a fragment of a transmission from the last known battle involving Terran forces. It's over 9,000 years old." "What does it say?" "Warning to all ships. Do not engage Terran forces without full fleet support. Repeat, do not engage. Their technology is beyond our understanding. They can make our weapons useless and our shields fail. Request immediate reinforcement before—" The recording cut off there. "Interesting historical curiosity," Thexvar said. "But doctor, that was 9,000 years ago. We've advanced far beyond whatever primitive species faced the Terrans back then." Captain Chen's voice came through the speakers again. "Admiral Thexvar, I'm detecting that your ships are powering up weapons systems. I urge you to reconsider. The Terran Imperial Navy has specific protocols for dealing with hostile forces in protected space." "What protocols would those be?" Thexvar asked mockingly. "Complete elimination of the threat," Chen replied simply. This brought more laughter from the bridge crew. The idea that a single ancient ship could threaten their entire modern fleet was beyond ridiculous. "Captain Chen," Thexvar said, "let me explain something to you. My flagship alone carries enough firepower to destroy a small moon. We have quantum disruptor cannons that can tear apart the atomic bonds in your hull. We have matter annihilator, torpedoes that can erase you from existence. And that's just one ship. I have 200. "Impressive," Chen acknowledged. "The younger races have indeed developed some interesting weapons. But Admiral, you still don't understand what you're facing." Dr. Veltana found another file fragment. "Admiral, listen to this. It's from a hegemony report, but it's very old. Contact lost with the 47th Battle Group after engagement with unknown Terran vessel. Last transmission indicated that their weapons had no effect on the enemy ship. Investigating fleet found only debris. Recommend avoiding contact with Terran forces until we better understand their capabilities." "Doctor," Commander Velkar said impatiently, "those reports are from a time when we used primitive energy weapons and basic shields. Our current technology is centuries ahead of what those old fleets had." But Dr. Veltana wasn't convinced. She had studied too many dead civilizations. What if the Terrans didn't disappear because they were defeated? What if they chose to leave? "Chose to leave?" Thexvar asked. "What if they became so advanced that they decided to step back and let other species develop? What if they've been watching us all this time?" The Admiral had heard enough theories. "Doctor, you're letting ancient stories cloud your judgment. This is reality. We have the most advanced fleet in the galaxy facing a single old ship with obsolete weapons." Captain Chen tried one more time. "Admiral, I'm going to be very clear with you. The UES Retribution is not just a warship. It's a final protocol vessel. We were placed on deep patrol with specific orders about protecting Terran interests. Those orders have not been rescinded. And what exactly is Final Protocol? Thexvar asked. The complete elimination of any force that threatens Terran space or Terran interests. No exceptions. No survivors. The bridge crew found this hilarious. The weapons officer was laughing so hard he had tears in his eyes. Admiral, should I target their engines or just vaporize the whole ship at once? Dr. Veltana made one last attempt. Admiral, what if we're wrong? What if that ship really is as dangerous as Captain Chen claims? Then we'll find out quickly, Thexvar replied. All ships, this is the Admiral. Target the enemy vessel and prepare to fire on my command. Across the fleet, weapon systems locked onto the ancient human ship. Quantum disruptors charged to full power. Matter annihilator torpedoes loaded into firing tubes. Energy shields reached maximum strength. Admiral, Captain Chen's voice had lost all warmth. You're making a terrible mistake. This is your absolute final warning. Withdraw now, or face the consequences. The only mistake I made was wasting this much time talking to you, Thexvar replied. All ships, fire at will. The space around the UES Retribution lit up with weapon fire. Quantum disruptor beams lanced through space. Matter annihilator torpedoes streaked toward their target. Energy weapons that could melt asteroids focused their power on the ancient ship. For a moment, the human vessel was completely hidden behind explosions and energy discharges. The hegemony fleet had unleashed enough firepower to destroy a small fleet of modern ships. Direct hits on target, the tactical officer reported. Massive energy release. Wait, Admiral, I'm still reading the target ship. It appears to be completely undamaged. The explosions cleared, revealing the UES Retribution hanging in space exactly where it had been before. There wasn't a scratch on its hull. Impossible, whispered Commander Velkar. Nothing can survive that much concentrated firepower. Dr. Veltana stared at her readings in shock. Admiral, the ship absorbed all that energy. Our most powerful weapons had no effect at all. Captain Chen's voice came through the speakers one final time. Her words were calm, but they carried the weight of absolute certainty. Admiral Thexvar, you have fired on a Terran Imperial Navy vessel. This action constitutes an act of war. Final protocol is now in effect. May your species learn from your mistake. On the main screen, the UES Retribution began to change again, but this time, it wasn't revealing hidden sections. This time, it was powering up weapons that had been sleeping for 12,000 years. The transformation of the UES Retribution was unlike anything anyone in the hegemony fleet had ever seen. What they had thought was an ancient, damaged warship revealed itself to be something far more terrifying. Admiral, the sensor operator, called out with panic in his voice. The target ship is generating energy readings that are off our scales. The computer can't even calculate the power levels. Along the hull of the Retribution, sections that had appeared to be battle scars opened, like blooming flowers. Inside each opening, weapons unlike anything in current galactic technology began to emerge. They moved with smooth precision, turning to target different ships in the hegemony fleet. Dr. Veltana watched her instruments with horror. Admiral, those aren't conventional weapons. I'm reading gravitational distortions, temporal field fluctuations, and energy signatures that don't match anything in our database. All ships, maintain firing positions, Admiral Thexvar ordered, though doubt was beginning to creep into his voice. Continue bombardment of the target. The fleet unleashed another massive wave of weapons fire. Quantum disruptors, matter annihilators, and plasma cannons all focused their energy on the ancient human ship. Once again, the space around the Retribution filled with explosive light. And once again, when the light faded, the ship remained completely undamaged. How is that possible? Commander Velkar demanded. We hit it with everything we have. Captain Chen's voice came through the communications system. She sounded almost sad. Admiral, you still don't understand. Your weapons are very impressive for your level of development. But the Terran Imperial Navy faced threats far beyond anything your species has ever imagined. We learned to build accordingly. The first weapon from the Retribution fired without any visible energy discharge or projectile. One moment the hegemony destroyer Swift Strike was there. The next moment, it simply wasn't. It didn't explode. It didn't break apart. It just stopped existing. What happened to the Swift Strike? Thexvar shouted. Sir, the tactical officer replied with a shaking voice. It just disappeared. No debris, no energy signature. It's gone. The second weapon fired, targeting a cruiser on the fleet's left flank. This time they could see what happened. The ship began to age rapidly, its hull turning from bright metal to rust to dust in seconds. The entire vessel crumbled away like it had been sitting in space for millions of years. Temporal weapon, Dr. Veltana whispered. They're using time itself as a weapon. A third weapon from the ancient ship created a sphere of twisted space around another hegemony vessel. The cruiser was crushed into a point smaller than a marble in less than a heartbeat. Gravity manipulation, the science officer reported. They're creating localized gravitational fields strong enough to compress matter into, his words were, cut off as a fourth weapon fired. This one targeted the communications relay ship. The vessel didn't disappear or crumble. Instead, it transformed. The metal hull became some kind of crystalline substance that shattered like glass when the ship's own engines tried to move it. Matter conversion beam, Dr. Veltana said numbly. They're changing the atomic structure of our ships. Admiral Thexvar watched in horror as his fleet began to die around him. 4 ships gone in less than 30 seconds, each destroyed by weapons that defied all known science. All ships evasive maneuvers, he ordered. Scatter pattern 7. But the ancient human ship seemed to anticipate every move. Its weapons tracked the fleeing vessels with impossible accuracy. A destroyer trying to escape behind a nearby asteroid found itself trapped when the asteroid suddenly became a cloud of gas. A cruiser attempting to jump to hyperspace discovered that space itself had been twisted around it, making escape impossible. Admiral, Captain Chen's voice was patient, almost instructional. Your ships are fast and maneuverable, but speed means nothing when your enemy can manipulate time. Maneuverability means nothing when your enemy controls gravity itself. Another weapon fired from the Retribution. This one created what looked like a tear in space itself. 3 hegemony ships were pulled into the tear and vanished. The tear sealed itself, leaving no trace that the ships had ever existed. Dimensional rifts, Dr. Veltana reported. They're opening holes in reality. Commander Velkar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Admiral, we've lost 12 ships in 2 minutes. Our weapons have no effect on them, but they're destroying us like we're made of paper. The Retribution's weapons continued their methodical destruction of the fleet. Each shot was different, demonstrating a new way to unmake matter and energy. Ships were frozen in time, turned inside out, converted to energy, or simply erased from existence. This isn't a battle, Thexvar realized. This is an execution. Admiral, Dr. Veltana said quietly, I don't think we're fighting a ship from an ancient civilization. I think we're fighting a ship from a civilization so advanced that they moved beyond our understanding entirely. Captain Chen's voice confirmed her fear. Dr. Veltana is correct. The Terran Empire didn't fall or disappear. We transcended the need for territorial expansion. We developed technology that allowed us to exist beyond the normal flow of time and space. But we left Guardians behind to watch over the younger races. A massive energy discharge from the Retribution split a battlecruiser perfectly in half. Both halves continued to function for a moment before the crew realized what had happened. We hoped, Chen continued, that the species that inherited our former territories would grow wise, that they would learn to coexist peacefully, that they would develop the wisdom to match their technology. Another group of ships tried to coordinate an attack on the ancient vessel. The Retribution responded by creating a field that reversed the flow of time around them. The ships began flying backward, their weapons fire returning to their cannons, their crews aging in reverse. Instead, Chen's voice was filled with disappointment. We find the same patterns repeated. Species that develop powerful weapons but not wisdom. Civilizations that take what they want through force rather than cooperation. Admiral. Thexvar looked at his tactical display. In 5 minutes he had lost over 30 ships. The remainder of his fleet was scattered and demoralized. His most advanced weapons were useless against an enemy that could rewrite the laws of physics. Captain Chen, he called out desperately. We surrender. Please, stop the attack. Admiral, Chen replied sadly. The final protocol doesn't allow for surrender. Once activated, it must run to completion. Your species chose this path when you decided to mock the Terran Empire and attack one of our ships. The weapons of the Retribution continued their work. Each shot was precisely calculated to demonstrate a different aspect of technology that was beyond the understanding of younger civilizations. Ships were destroyed in ways that would have seemed impossible minutes before. Dr. Veltana watched the systematic destruction of her civilization's greatest fleet. Admiral, we never had a chance, did we? This was never a fair fight. No, Thexvar admitted. We thought we were lions attacking a sheep. Instead, we were insects attacking a god. The systematic destruction of the Zephyrian hegemony's third expeditionary fleet continued with terrifying precision. Admiral Thexavar's flagship, the Dominator, watched helplessly as the ancient human vessel methodically eliminated every ship in the formation. "Sir," reported the tactical officer, his voice barely a whisper, "we've lost 170 ships. Only 30 vessels remain operational." The UES Retribution had demonstrated weapons technology that made their own seem like stone tools. Matter conversion, gravity manipulation, temporal distortion, dimensional rifts, and dozens of other effects that had no names in any known language. Dr. Veltana stared at her instruments in fascination, despite the horror around her. "Admiral, each weapon they're using operates on completely different principles. They're not just more advanced than us, they're using science we don't even have theories for." Another hegemony cruiser simply faded away like smoke. The ship didn't explode or break apart. It gradually became transparent until it was gone completely. "What did they do to the Starfire?" Commander Velkar asked. "I think," Dr. Veltana said slowly, "they shifted it out of phase with our reality. The ship still exists, but not in our dimension anymore." Captain Chen's voice came through the speakers. She had been providing commentary throughout the battle, explaining each weapon as it fired. "The phase displacement cannon moves targets into parallel dimensional space. The crew is unharmed, but they can no longer interact with our universe." Admiral Thexavar couldn't understand why she was explaining their weapons. "Captain Chen, why are you telling us this?" "Because this engagement is being recorded and transmitted across subspace to every major civilization in the galaxy," Chen replied. "The final protocol requires that all species witness what happens when the Terran Empire is threatened. It serves as both warning and education." The Admiral realized with horror that thousands of worlds were watching his fleet being destroyed. Every government, every military leader, every scientist in known space was seeing the demonstration of human technology. "You're making an example of us," he said. "Yes," Chen confirmed. "The Terran Empire hoped that younger civilizations would develop wisdom alongside their technology. When a species proves that it will use force against those it considers weaker, it becomes necessary to show them their true place in the galactic hierarchy." A group of 5 destroyers tried to ram the Retribution in a desperate suicide attack. The ancient ship responded by creating a localized time bubble around them. The destroyers slowed down until they were barely moving, trapped in a field where time passed thousands of times slower than normal. "Temporal stasis field," Chen explained, calmly. "Those crews will experience the rest of this battle as a few seconds of slow motion. They'll be released unharmed once we're finished here." Dr. Veltana understood now. They're not trying to kill everyone. They're demonstrating their power while minimizing actual casualties. "The final protocol," Chen continued, "is designed to end conflicts with minimal loss of life, while making the consequences of aggression absolutely clear." Admiral Thexvar watched as his remaining ships were systematically disabled, rather than destroyed. Some were trapped in gravitational fields. Others were frozen in time. A few were simply turned off, their power systems shut down by means he couldn't comprehend. "Admiral," the communications officer reported, "I'm receiving surrender signals from all remaining ships." "Captain Chen," Thexvar called out, "my fleet surrenders unconditionally. We understand our mistake." "Admiral, the final protocol doesn't end with surrender," Chen replied. "It ends when the lesson is complete." The Dominator shook as some kind of energy field enveloped it. But instead of being destroyed, the ship found itself gently held in place by forces beyond their understanding. "You and your crew will be the witnesses," Chen explained. "Your ship will survive to carry word of this encounter back to your government. The rest of your fleet has been disabled, not destroyed. Most of your crews are alive but temporarily removed from this dimension for their own safety." Through the viewports, they could see the UES Retribution undergoing another transformation. The weapon ports were closing. The additional hull sections were folding back into their concealed positions. The ship was returning to its original appearance as an ancient, damaged derelict. "Admiral Thexvar." Captain Chen's voice was returning, to its original friendly tone. "I want you to understand something important. The Terran Empire didn't disappear 12,000 years ago because we were conquered, or because we failed as a civilization." "Then why?" Thexvar asked. "We evolved, beyond the need for physical territory and material resources. We learned to exist in higher dimensions of space and time. We developed technology that let us transcend the normal limitations of matter and energy. Dr. Veltana leaned forward eagerly. But you left ships like the Retribution behind? We left Guardians, Chen confirmed. Automated vessels with human crews in temporal suspension. We hoped that the younger species would eventually develop the wisdom to join us in our transcended state. But we also knew that some would choose the path of conquest and aggression. The space around them was now eerily quiet. Where moments before there had been a massive fleet, now there was only debris from a few ships, some strange energy fields containing disabled vessels, and the ancient human ship slowly powering down. The ships we left behind have specific instructions, Chen continued. Protect developing civilizations from outside threats. Allow natural progress and development. But if any species becomes aggressive enough to attack what they believe to, be a helpless target. Demonstrate the consequences of that choice. Admiral Thexvar felt the weight of those words. We thought you were defenseless. Yes. You saw what you believed to be an ancient, primitive ship and decided to attack it for sport. That decision has consequences far beyond this battle. What? Consequences? This encounter is being broadcast to every major government in the galaxy. They're seeing what happened to the hegemony's most powerful fleet when it attacked a single Terran vessel. How do you think that will affect your species' standing in galactic politics? The Admiral closed his eyes. The hegemony's reputation as the dominant military power in this region was finished. No one would fear them anymore. Worse, no one would respect them. But there's also an opportunity here, Chen added. Your species can choose to learn from this experience. You can develop wisdom to match your technology. You can become worthy of joining the greater galactic community as partners rather than conquerors. Dr. Veltana spoke up. Captain Chen, how many ships like the Retribution are out there? Enough, came the simple reply. We placed guardians throughout our former territory. Some are disguised as derelicts like this one. Others appear to be asteroids, space stations, or even planets. All are watching. All are waiting to see which species will choose wisdom and which will choose aggression. The UES Retribution was, now almost completely powered down again. It looked exactly like the damaged ancient ship they had first encountered. Captain Chen? Admiral Thexvar asked. What happens now? Now you return to your government with a complete recording of this encounter. You tell them that the Terran Empire still exists and still protects this region of space. You tell them that any species can choose to develop peacefully, but those who choose conquest will face the consequences. And the crews from our destroyed ships? They'll be returned safely to hegemony space within a few days. Consider it a gift and a demonstration that the Terran Empire prefers mercy to vengeance. The communications channel closed. The UES Retribution began to drift away into the darkness between stars, looking once again like nothing more than an ancient piece of space junk. Admiral Thexvar looked around his bridge at the shocked faces of his crew. Dr. Veltana, begin compiling a complete report of this encounter. Every sensor reading, every weapon effect, every word Captain Chen spoke. Yes, sir. Admiral, what will you tell the High Command? Thexvar thought carefully before answering. I'll tell them the truth, that we encountered a civilization so advanced that they could destroy us without effort, but chose not to, and that we have a choice to make as a species. Learn wisdom, or face the consequences of our actions. He looked out at the empty space where his fleet had once been. I'll tell them that humanity never disappeared. They just stopped caring about the petty territorial disputes of younger species. But they're still watching. And they're still waiting to see if we're worthy of growing up. In the distance, the ancient human ship faded into the cosmic background, ready to wait another 1,000 years if necessary.